I am Dave Nellist. I was in the 1980s the Labour MP with Jeremy, elected in June 1983. More opposite for tonight's meeting, however. I joined the TNG in January 1974. So I've been a member of Unite and its antecedent unions for over 50 years. And the only position I hold now in the union is I'm chair of the Area Activist Committee for Coventry and Warwickshire, though here in a personal capacity as far as that is concerned. This meeting flows from the one we had very successfully a couple of weeks ago on the 21st of July, which some or many of you may have been present at, when we had over 1,000 trade unionists from 30 different unions. And we've organised a series of follow-up meetings for separate unions, and tonight is exclusively for Unite members. So the other thing about tonight is that at the 21st of July meeting, which was an initial meeting, it came out of a petition that we launched with, I think it was 25 current or former members of national executive committees of 11 unions. That's now up to, I think, 42 or 43.
Dave Nellist very kindly invited me to send a message to the meeting this evening because it's impossible for me to be there. I want to say thanks very much for that invitation. And our new party, It's Your Party.uk, is going extremely well. Over 600,000 people have already signed up for it. The fundamental principles behind the party are international policy of peace and justice, redistribution of power and wealth within our society, an end to horrible policies like the two-child benefit cap, an end to attacks on the rights of disabled people to receive full PIP benefits, and a whole range of issues of social justice. It's going to be very critical of the government. It is very critical of the government, but it's also about how we organise and how we do things politically. When I was leader of the Labour Party, I was very determined to make sure we were a community organised party based in the grassroots. This party is going to be absolutely based in the grassroots, democratic to its core, and obviously accountable for all the policies it puts forward. So we're asking people to join us, and 600,000 already have. We are going through all those people's names and addresses, locating them in the areas in which they live so we can build that party organisation in those places. But above all, it's about working with existing organisations, existing tenants groups, existing social groups like People's Assembly, and also, from my point of view, absolutely crucially, to attract trade unionists and trade union members and trade unions to be involved in and supported this party, because workers' rights are absolutely at the core of everything that we believe in. The last thing I'd say is this: we are in danger in this country of a duopoly of power, of the Tories and Labour saying exactly the same thing on economic policy, and the far right, led by Nigel Farage, blaming every social ill on poor, desperate migrants and refugees. We're having none of that. We are part of the anti-racist movement. We're part of the popular movement to bring about real change and social justice in Britain. We can only do that when we're all united as communities. I look forward to working with you all to achieve that through our unions, through this party, and above all, through the day-to-day work we all do. Thank you.
People will be familiar with what's been happening with the Birmingham bin dispute, and that it's a Labour council that is the employer in that case, and also there are the Labour government has sent in commissioners into Birmingham City Council who now seem to be doing a lot of the decision making. So the Labour Party is up to its necks in what's happening in Birmingham. And while we were at conference, we found out that more or less as soon as some of the reps from the Birmingham bin dispute had got on the train to come down to Brighton, to come down to conference, the employer, taking the opportunity of some of the reps being away, issued the 45-day notices of redundancy, with the option of people signing up to new contracts to stay as employees. But those contracts were on inferior terms and inferior pay. that is fire and rehire. So when people hear, discussion of fire and rehire, that is what fire and rehire is. So as soon as that news started to come around, a few of us got together at conference, excuse me, and put together a model motion that was very ably moved by Oisin Mulholland from the conference floor. And the motion said three things. First of all, sending solidarity to the Birmingham bin workers, obviously, and all of our support. The second thing was absolute condemnation of what Birmingham City Council was doing, and also saying that Unite would remove or suspend from our membership all of the Labour councillors who were Unite members, and Angela Rayner, who again has a lot of kind of control over what's happening there. And then the third thing, which was the really important bit for this meeting, was that we said that if Birmingham City Council goes ahead with its threat to fire and rehire the bin workers in Birmingham, that we would call a conference which would discuss our relationship with the Labour Party. Now, that motion didn't specifically mention, disaffiliation, but if we did hold a rules conference, that would be one of the options that was on the table. If we want to disaffiliate from Labour, we have to have some form of rules conference for that rule change to be agreed. One of the first things I think that all Unite members can do is to look at they will have executive council members who represent their sector, represent their region, and also represent any equality strands that they belong to. And that list is up on Unite website. We can put a link into the chat. You can certainly get in touch with all of those executive council members and really press on them the need to push ahead with organising that conference. The other thing that we can do is to pass motions at our branches. So every single member belongs to a branch. And what we need to be calling for is for Unite to either bring forward the full 2027 rules conference. We have one which is notionally scheduled for 2027, but we could bring that forward to 2026, or we could convene a special rules conference in 2026 in line with the emergency motion that was passed at policy conference. The mandate to call that conference to discuss the relationship with Unite and the Labour Party was given by policy conference. It doesn't need any further agreement of the Executive Council. So motions can be passed at branch meetings, but they can also be raised by any of the committees that sit below constitutionally sit below the Executive Council. So these are the regional committees, regional or national industrial sector committees, or regional or national equalities committees. So again, you can be putting through using the model motion or writing one of your own to put it through at those committees. Once those motions have been put through, we need to still be, chasing them up. If you don't know who your branch secretary and branch chair are, then you can just call your regional office and find out. And then you can keep asking them if you can't get to the meeting, ask them when your next branch meeting is, get along to the meeting, put that motion through, and make sure that is then passed, but keep following it, because people don't always report back on what happens to motions, and from a branch it can't just be sent straight to the Executive Council. It has to pass through other committees along the way. Obviously, if you sit on any of the other constitutional committees, get along to that if at all possible, and present that motion there, or ask to raise a motion there, or pick up any motions that have been passed through to that committee from branches and support those motions calling for that rules conference to happen. In all cases, I would just reiterate, don't assume that just because a motion is passed, it will be sent off to the next committee level. It has been known that they get lost in the post or just sat on for a few months. So we need to keep pushing those through and following up with our secretaries and the chairs of the committees or the branches, whatever we need to do. And then the second part of the piece is that we need to think about the rules conference itself. We need to have options on the table for discussion. I'm sure we'll have more discussions ahead of any conference happening to make sure that happens. But people that we'll all be speaking to, I think, will be asking, well, what would happen if we did affiliate from the Labour Party? And the answer is, and again, this is where there's a lot of myth that is spread, we would still be able to support Labour MPs and councillors or candidates in other elections if members agreed that that individual was acting in the interests and obviously in line with our policy. We need to be clear about this because quite often opponents of disaffiliation make out that we would have to stop supporting decent Labour MPs. That absolutely isn't the case. But what it does mean, and this is that if there are other candidates, like from your party, but it could, you know, there are lots of other kind of campaign groups that are fielding candidates and things like that, and our members want to support them, whose manifesto is aligned to Unite policy, we would be able to support them. And we can't do that at the moment. The rules of affiliation to Labour mean that we currently have one option, and that is to support the Labour candidate regardless of how they behave or how they vote. So, for example, according to Unite rules at the moment, we have to support whichever Labour Party candidate is standing in opposition to Jeremy Corbyn in Islington and Zarah Sultana in Coventry South. We can't support any other candidates at the moment. So I just wanted to conclude, obviously, by saying that the Birmingham bin strike has really underscored the extent to which Unite's relationship with the Labour Party puts us in a wholly contradictory position now. We're feeding a party machine that long ago left our interests behind in favour of big employers, big business and big landlords as well, as all too often is in the press. But what happened at conference in the overwhelming support that was shown for that emotion gives us a clear pathway out. There were 800 delegates at conference. Only 5 of them did not vote in favour of that emergency motion. We know some of the 5 as well. They came up and spoke and got shot down for doing so. The fact that it coincided with what happened at policy conference has more or less coincided with the formation of Jeremy and Zarah's party means that there are now alternatives for us to consider. So this is the point for us to really seize the moment and push it forwards to its conclusion. I believe we have a unique opportunity at the moment within Unite, and I hope everybody here will come on board with that.
I'd just like to say the reps and the members who attended conference would just like to, they were truly humbled by the solidarity and support they received. They weren't expecting anything like that. We are in a fire and rehire situation for the second time in 7 months. They can't believe they're being treated this way by a Labour council and a Labour government, with Labour appointed commissioners in charge. We heard that Angela Rayner was coming to Birmingham. 3 months, I think it was 3 months ago, she came to Birmingham. We were all excited. We thought we were going to get visits on picket lines, and finally the Labour Party were going to just back us and just give us that support that we need. We didn't see her on any picket lines. We saw the news later on and we just felt absolutely betrayed. She was patting scab workers on the back, who were scab agency workers who were in charge of the clear up. She never visited one single picket line, never spoke to one striking worker. And that's the membership. They've just basically said that that's not the Labour Party that they want. That's not the Labour Party they vote for. And these are working class people who join unions because they want to be together with working class people. They don't necessarily share that socialist kudos that we all have, and they're the ones that are going to get pushed into Farage's arms. They're the ones that they see. They just want to change, and if they feel betrayed by a Labour government and a Labour council, who are firing and rehiring them twice, some of them in a 7-month period, it's just it just really just feels like a betrayal. I can't say any stronger than that. We had a mega picket arranged by Strike Map, because we've been injuncted. So basically anyone who works for Unite, anyone who works for Birmingham City Council cannot protest anymore. With basically the injunction by Labour Council has basically removed our right to protest. They just want us to stand there while they terrify agency workers. If you stop and speak to them, you'll be sacked. So we form a picket line, try and speak to them, and they just drive straight through us. They basically removed the disturbance that you want to cause when you want to cause that when you're having a strike action. You want to feel like you're having an effect, and they've just completely removed that with the injunction. We had 2 arrests. A Unite organiser and one of our health and safety reps was arrested. Tom White's was mentioned, which is another Labour council in Coventry. They're sending 20 vehicles a day over to us. We had organisers in Coventry that were trying to delay them from getting to us, and now they've become part of the injunction. The injunction isn't just localised to an area now in Birmingham, it's localised to any vehicle that's clearing waste in Birmingham. So if you try and stop a Tom White's vehicle, you're breaking a Birmingham injunction. It's just the anti-strike legislation they're using against us by Labour Council is just disgusting. On the flip side of that, the support we've had nationally has been absolutely amazing. I mean, that's the support we're getting because we're not getting it from the Labour government, we're not getting it from a Labour council, but we're still standing there, we're still standing strong, and we're not going anywhere until it's sorted. Literally, a win for us is a draw, is staying on the same grade we're on now. That's a win for us, just not losing £8,000, a quarter of our salary a year. We've all got mortgages, we've all got rent, we've all got bills to pay, and to lose 25% of your salary is just like, it's unthinkable, and that's why we fight, that's why we're standing on, and that's why we're going to do it till the end. Thank you for listening.
Thanks to everybody who's attended tonight. We had over 220 Unite activists here, which is a significant number of people who can begin the process of developing from the bottom up a debate around this issue over the next few weeks. On the 4th of October in Scotland and on the 25th of October in Wales, there are conferences organised by trade unionists with involvement of trade unions, in the case of Scotland, with the sponsorship from Scottish Tusk as well, for trade unions to come together for the Welsh Synod and the Scottish Parliament elections to discuss the options for standing workers' candidates on socialist policies. The key thing about tonight, though, was the motion. We do need branches in August and September to discuss the motion and then pass it on to the various avenues within the union that we've detailed, but also copy it to your regional executive council members and to the executive council member for the sector that you're in. And I would highlight, I mean, the whole of the motion is worth reading and putting in front of a branch, but I would highlight the first action point, which is to continue to back those Unite supported MPs who have so far had the whip removed for opposing new Labour austerity. If you're able to get it passed at a branch and send it off regionally or elsewhere, please let me know so we can start building up a bit of a table of what support that we've got. But we do need to organise another meeting of this group in order to assess how well we've developed. So without tying us to an actual date tonight until we've looked at a few other diaries of people that might be involved, but perhaps towards the end of September, to see what motions have been passed in August and September, to see how the TUC conference at the beginning of September goes, to see how the other party conferences go during September, most importantly, to see what Birmingham Council does if those dates are still held, that the consultation period before the sacking of our members in Birmingham comes to a conclusion at some point early or in the middle of September itself. So if we were to have another meeting towards the end of September, we'd be able to review all those things and hopefully redouble our efforts in the last few days of the month before the Executive Council meets in the first week of October itself. So thanks to everyone for coming. As I